Thank you guys, appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really an honor to be here and represent LSU football in my home city, and I'm really thankful for that opportunity to be able to speak in front of you guys and alongside great coaches right here. I mean, David Griffin's stock game is amazing. Ricky Jackson, who he's a good friend. My dad loves you. He plays golf with you, Tom Martin. Yeah. Yeah, golf guy. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about myself, a little bit about the program, what we got going on, and some recruiting as well too. So a little bit about my background. Again, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. Graduated from McDonough 35 Senior High School in 2002. Grew up as a Tulane fan, so I was a hometown Tulane fan. I was going with the Sean King era, 13-0 Liberty Bowl win, so I was on all that, man. But as soon as I touched down on LSU campus in the summer of 2002, that was over with. It grabbed me, the campus grabbed me, the culture grabbed me, and that's some of the things that I like to portray to our potential student athletes and our recruits. Went to be a walk-on football player there, but I met a guy named Marquise Hill, God bless his soul. Marquise Hill spoke with me. My roommate was a barber, and he said, hey, man, you can walk on, that's cool and everything, but they give scholarships to those equipment managers. So that made sense to me, that made sense to my parents, so that's what I did, and I learned a lot from being an equipment manager. I was the last person hired by the great Jeff Boss, worked with Greg Stringfellow. I was also the defensive back liaison, so I was here from 2002 to 2005 as an equipment manager, and as a defensive back liaison, I worked with Nick Saban, I worked with Travis Walton, Kirby Smart, and the myriad of head coaches that were on that staff. So I got a lot of experience doing that. I went to school to be a writer. So I transitioned to the Rivals.com network, wrote for them for a little bit, wrote for the Daily Rebel. There's a couple of my friends in here from my old media days that I've seen. And then from there, I went on to manage a couple of professional athletes, right? So a couple of my friends went on to become professional athletes, and I essentially just helped them with the process of becoming, or helping them throughout their professional development from a standpoint of nonprofit organizations, travel, just certain things of that nature. And from there, I got back in school, got my, get my master's degree, and that's when I got on in my current capacity, where I am right now. And that is the Director of On-Campus Recruiting, Assistant Director of Player Development. But from that standpoint, I don't necessarily get caught up in titles, man. Whatever role I can do to help LSU football is what I'm focused on. So whatever I'm capable of doing, whatever needs to be done, from taking the team role to helping secure a 5-star athlete to come to campus, I'm here for it. And I think my superiors know that, and they appreciate the job that I do. But within the current role that I'm doing now, it's a couple of things that I do. So it's personnel, it's on-campus recruiting, and it's player development. So from a personnel standpoint, that's cutting down the film, that's evaluating, that's helping get the film ready for our coaches to look at and determine who, scholarship offers, who deserves the scholarship, who we're going to hold on, who we're going to wait on, things of that nature. Also getting them ready to get on the road. Obviously, we're on a bye week right now, and our coaches are coming back from being off the road this Monday to check out a couple guys. We'll practice a little bit, get on the road again Friday, and then we'll be off for the weekend. From an on-campus recruiting standpoint, see, that's really my baby right there, because I think that's a very important role. Essentially, I think that athletics is the front porch of the university. Somebody told me that, and I agree with it. And from my job standpoint, how I like to look at it is that I am the front porch to athletics from a PSA standpoint. So they get to view the campus, they get to view the program through my eyes, and I take that role very seriously. And one of the things I like to do is I like to set up the conversations that they have with certain guys. So Tommy Moffitt, our strength and conditioning coordinator, best in the country. I'll tell them about the 16 head strength and conditioning coaches throughout the country that Coach Moffitt has raised essentially in that program before they talk to Coach Moffitt. I'll talk to them about Jack Marucci and all the great things that we're doing in training before they talk to Jack Marucci, so on and so forth. The Cox Academic Center, where we raised our graduation rate from 69% to 89% under the current administration. And I think that helps set up the conversation, and those conversations hit different when you kind of know about what those guys have done in their career. So that's some of the things I like to do with on-campus recruiting. We have a staff of women who helps us out a lot too. They set up a lot of these things. So Ms. Sharon Lewis and her staff will help set up. When we go to restaurants, everything's laid out. If we need to see a business professor, everything's laid out. So that's some of the things we do with on-campus recruiting. Player development is another huge part of what I do. Again, I don't get caught up in titles. I just do what I can for the university, and I was doing this before they actually gave me this title, right? But essentially it's helping transition from high school to college, help them throughout their college careers, and then that transition from college to the next level, whether that's the NFL, whether that's moving on in life. And again, it takes a village to raise a child, and we have a village for these children that we have within the football program. So Kevin Falk does a really good job, who is the director of player development, who I work with. He does a really good job in doing that. And I think my experiences working with the guys that I've worked with, it bodes well for the guys, but to have a Kevin Falk with us and with those guys and available to those guys every day. I mean, we all know the stats, right? 3-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time Super Bowl appearances, LSU leading rusher, so on and so forth. 13-year NFL career as a running back for Bill Belichick. I mean, to have that with you every day to be able to speak to, I think is invaluable for our guys. So Kevin Falk and myself, we work with that player development role, along with Tamara Davis and a couple other people within the program. So what me and Kevin Falk like to say is, we're in the streets, right? So for us in the streets mean we're on campus. We go check classes, right? We talk to professors, we talk to tutors, we try to get a tone, get a pulse of how our guys are developing as people, right? It's one thing to know how they're developing on the field, but off the field is so important as well, especially when you're dealing with kids, right? These aren't professional athletes yet, so they're still developing. They're 18 to 21, some of them 17, so we're trying to make sure they're doing the right things and becoming the men that they need to become, and part of that is dealing with the player development stuff. And also there's a little bit of counseling involved in that too. I mean, again, these are kids. These kids have very high expectations. It's a lot of national exposure, so they're going through a lot of things, and we're here for them to talk to as well. So from a team standpoint, I can say it, we're 4-0. You can't be any better than 4-0 after 4 games, so we're excited about that. Had a top 10 road victory over Texas and got our first conference victory this past week. I think everybody's been talking about the offense. The offense has been like the talk of the nation, and rightfully so. You guys know the stats, right? So, I mean, we've scored the most points for any SEC team in the history of the conference after 4 games. We've been rolling, man. Joe Burrow's leading the nation in passing efficiency. And I think that's a testament to not only Joe, but to Coach Steve Ensminger and Coach Joe Brady and some of the things that they've helped implement, not to mention Coach O, who is progressive enough to let them come in and work the philosophy that they need to work to. So I think that's a testament to our coaching staff and also to our quarterback. And to speak a little bit more about our quarterback, Joe Burrow, man, I mean, he's serious. So I was talking to a couple of my guys before the season, letting them know, man, listen, I wouldn't want any other college quarterback other than Joe Burrow to quarterback that team. And they laughed at me a little bit, and a little bit about that was some biased stuff to it, right? But I mean, I think he's coming out and he's proving that, man. He's just a guy who's tough, he's determined, he's intelligent. I mean, he's the son of a coach, and it's not just from a stereotypical standpoint, son of a coach. I recruited some son of coaches, and you couldn't tell on the field that they were son of a coach. I mean, this guy shows it. And he's just a guy, I know y'all remember that T.O. line where, T.O. said, that's my quarterback, man. He's a guy that makes you feel like that a lot, right? He does a lot of things that make you say, that's my quarterback. And he's just a guy that guys want to play for, and I think we're very fortunate to have Joe in our program. So along with that, if we can keep Joe healthy, I think we can stand up to anybody in the country. And speaking of health, we got a lot of guys nicked up early in the season. The good thing about that is none of them minus Todd Harris or season-ending injuries, so we'll be able to get a lot of those guys back. I think that speaks to a little bit of the inconsistency that we've shown on defense. There have been times we've been dominant. There have been times that we've let some guys get through on some plays they shouldn't have, but I think that'll be shored up. There's a lot of things that we can fix on defense. So also, it'll be good to get Ed Ingram back. I was just speaking about Ed Ingram. He's a great guy. I mean, he's a guy that does everything right around the program. Even for the time that he's been away from the program, he's been working hard, trying to get back. Everybody's been fighting for him. Everybody who knows Ed knows his character, and they've been fighting for him. And he's actually going through his first practice today, so I'm excited to see that. So from a recruiting standpoint, moving forward, the 2019 class is everything we expected. And more from an athletic standpoint and from an on-field, off-the-field, character standpoint. So that's something that we're really excited about right there. In terms of the 2020 class, we're looking good. We're filling a lot of needs that we need to fill. And the name of that game, I know coaches, you guys know this, is to finish. So we got to get those guys signed, continue to cultivate those relationships until we get those guys signed, fill out those last couple spots. Also, we've identified most of the guys in the 21 class that we'll be targeting. So now it kind of comes to recruiting. You'll pick up a couple guys along the way, but right now we're deep into recruiting mode for the 2021 class. Even the 2022 class, we got a guy committed. More so, we're still in the identification process for those guys. But as you guys know, recruiting gets earlier and earlier as we progress. So it's as early as you can get on those guys who you think will be able to impact your program. You want to do it. You want to continue to cultivate those relationships and show them that LSU is the best place in the world to play college football. So with that being said, you want to continue to stack those classes on top of each other, and that's Coach O's philosophy, and that's the key to sustaining championship caliber teams. So it's stacking those classes on top of each other. A big part of that has been a new facility, right? So the new facility was created with our players in mind, but with an unintended consequence of that, and maybe it's intended a little bit, but it has attracted a lot of guys that want to come see it recruiting-wise. So a lot of these athletes want to come and see it. So they come, and in the midst of that, we get them, right? So we want to sell you on our people, on our processes, on our culture. So you come for the facility, and then you get immersed by the people, the processes, and the culture. And then from there, we feel like we got you. We got a really good shot at getting you to come be a part of our program if it works out best for both parties. So with that being said, man, we're about to start our SEC play. We're about to get into the meat of our SEC schedule. We just finished our first SEC game. We got a bye week right now, and then we'll finish strong with a tough SEC schedule, and then hopefully we'll be in a bowl game back in New Orleans. So with that being said, I'll take any questions if you got. No one? Yeah?
Waiting for the mic.
Okay.
Has what the it should be okay.
Just go ahead with that. Just back to that.
Even though it's been incredible, has what the offense done surprised you at all, or did you expect this level of performance this early?
Personally, believe it or not, it hasn't surprised me one bit. And part of that is seeing it through spring practice. Part of that is seeing the work that they've done throughout the summer, working on timing. Part of that is knowing the athletes that we have, knowing the new system that was being implemented. And even earlier interviews with Joe Burrow, he'll tell you, man, it looks like we're going to score 40, 50, 60 points a game. And early on, that's kind of what we've been doing. So being inside and seeing what's going on, it really hasn't surprised me at all. I think it surprised a lot of people in the country because you've heard this before, new offense this, new offense that. But just going throughout the whole process, I know that it was going to be very similar to what we're seeing right now.
And one more thing. Defense hasn't been typical LSU defense. Mm-hmm. You guys have a lot of guys who didn't play on the defensive line in the last game. Will they be back soon? And what's the overall feeling about what the defense has done thus far?
So I'll defer the injury questions to Coach O, but doesn't look like any of those guys will be season-ending injuries, so I can't say that. But in terms of the defense, those guys are disappointed with what they've done. They know the potential of what this defense could be, and they feel like they haven't lived up to that potential just yet. But again, there have been times throughout the season where they've looked really good. It's just consistency. It's doing that consistently and getting it done when it needs to be done, and just kind of a lot of the things that have led to the leaks in defense are things that are fixable, missing tackles, a couple assignment blows, stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that's fixable. So they're very confident they'll get it done, and there's no real panic, but they are aware that they haven't performed to the standard of LSU football and what they know they can do.
Hey, when they unveiled the new locker room, it made a big splash in the media. So are you seeing the results of that new locker room in recruiting and with the player development in the program?
100%. With Jack Marucci and Greg Stringfellow, Derek Panamsky, and all the guys who were involved in that new locker room had in mind was being practical. We've seen the new facilities come up where you spend hundreds of millions, however many millions of dollars you spend, and it's lights and whistles, it's TVs everywhere, which is fine, there's nothing against that, but ours was based on practicality, right? So you'll come into that locker room during camp, and it was so cool because they've been talking about it for 2 years, talking to Jack Marucci, selling it in recruiting, getting the little tidbits I could get from the guys who were actually involved in it and what it was going to be, so I can kind of preview the recruits of what it will be. and to actually see it in use, to come in there during fall camp and to see 60, 70, 80 guys catching rest before a training camp, 30, 40, 50 minutes of rest before a practice, to see the guys utilizing the cafeteria with the executive chef and talking about how the meals are good for them, and even the players' lounge. And not to mention the new Nicholson Gateway Apartments, which recently opened across the street. So yes, we've been seeing that. And then from a recruiting standpoint, it got a lot of national news. I was just talking to someone who mentioned that it was on Good Morning America when it came out. Obviously, it's on ESPN and everything. So with that, again, it lures the recruits to want to come see it, right? So it was open for a day, and then the next day when the day period ended, we had to show it off. So the whole day I'm walking around that place, I'm trying to get my path straight. I'm trying to make sure I know the place so I'm able to comfortably explain to the recruits what's going on and the things about the building. But yes, 100%. And I think those guys are always ahead of the curve. And guys will follow, teams will follow, schools will follow, and they'll come and do some of the things we're doing. But with the leadership that we have at LSU, we'll always be ahead of the curve. I'm comfortable in saying that. So the next big thing, I'm sure we'll come up with it. We'll come up with it first. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, with the way the offense is scoring points so quickly, under like maybe 2 minutes of possession, it's not really giving the defense the rest that they need. So my thought was, is that a conditioning issue? That, we never thought we'd score that quickly, so our defense necessarily didn't condition enough to be, in the game after 2 minutes again? Or is it depth? Where do you think the difference lies?
So I can tell you our defense is very well conditioned, and they knew what was coming because they've gone against this offense the entire, like I said, spring, summer, and in the fall camp. So they knew what was coming. I think the defensive issues that we're currently having is more so stuff that's fixable, is more so technical issues, like tackling, just alignment, assignment, things, again, that I feel like it can be fixed. I don't necessarily think it's a conditioning issue. And like I said, the team knew what was coming. It's more so upholding the standard. They know, they don't care how many times you score, how quickly you score. The defensive standard at LSU is you do not allow yards and chunks, and you do not give up points. That's the standard regardless if we score in 10 seconds, 10 minutes, whatever. So those guys are aware of that, and we are working to uphold the standard again. Any other questions for you, Hadi? Thank you guys, I really appreciate it, and go Tigers.